Hi everybody, I'm Trish Christ. In this episode of Our Nashville, NECAT and our super crew of teenagers spend some time with the YWCA. President and CEO Sharon Robertson and her team are going to show and tell us all of the important things they do in our community. Are you ready, Sharon?
Yes.
Are you ready, super crew?
Yes.
Let's make the show.
It's our Nashville.
It's our Nashville.
ناشفيل بتاعتنا.
It's our Nashville.
We all know how to talk about our organization during meetings, but what about the chance encounter of a lifetime? You never know who may share your next elevator, notice your logo on a notebook or a tote bag, and ask what you do. What's the clearest, most persuasive thing you can say in a short elevator ride?
The YW is the only nonprofit in the city that is dedicated to empowering women and eliminating racism.
How did the YWCA start and when?
The YWCA has been in the Nashville community 120 years, believe it or not.
My goodness.
And it really started with really a core of women that felt as though there was a need to really help women who, for whatever reason, needing shelter, they're displaced from where they were. And at that time, people didn't really understand the single woman or the woman with children without a husband, because that was a model that was so prevalent in society at that time. But there were some forward-thinking women that felt as though maybe we need to support women when they don't have the traditional support system, and that's how the YW came about in Nashville, Middle Tennessee.
120 years
Correct.
ago. Amazing.
I know. One thing and one of our biggest goals for our particular YW is we want Nashville to be Nashville and Middle Tennessee to be the safest place for women and girls in the country. That's a huge task. To start that process off, we have our domestic violence services. And the reason I say that is a lot of people think because we provide shelter, we have the Weaver Domestic Violence Shelter. Mm-hmm. But we are actually the largest provider of domestic violence services in the state. We not only provide the Weaver Center, which is 65 beds, we also provide a 24-hour crisis line. And that's really almost more important in some aspects than the shelter itself, because we have 7,500 calls we took last year.
My goodness.
7,500 calls for people that wanted information about a situation, information about another or loved one situation. Some of them did need actual shelter and safety, but for a number of reasons, you can call that 24-hour helpline, crisis line, and get information about domestic violence. We also do domestic violence trainings throughout the city. If someone needs a training, if someone needs information, whether it's a corporation, a nonprofit, governmental agency, or school, we go out and we provide this training, because we do believe that education is essential to understanding and really to help with domestic violence situations. And so that's a big part of what we do for women and children. We provide that safety net, we provide counseling, and we also help you bridge to a much more productive life.
So preventive, educational, what to do in crisis, sort of any step along the process.
Correct. Now, one thing that we are doing now is we are moving to an economic empowerment model. The reason why is we have so many programs I'll go into in just a few minutes that really dovetail into what we provide for safety. There's safety and then there's resilience. And we want to build that resilience in both the women and the children that we serve. And so we started looking at the other things we do anyway. We have a family literacy center that we will soon be rebranding as a family learning center, because we do believe that learning and education is fundamental to having a life that is meaningful to you and to your family. And in that, we provide the high set, which used to be called GED programming, and the testing and the training for that. But we also have another program that helps parents understand how to better help their children navigate through the educational system. That's our PACT program. And that program has really started taking off as we've moved it out into the community to locations such as such as Hispanic Family Foundation buildings. I mean, that has been a real boost to the program because so many people want to help their children in the education system. Also, one thing we work very much with the parents on is a lot of the children that we serve, in fact, all the children that we serve in the Weaver Center have had adverse childhood experiences. And really, if you think
That's
about
a range
it,
of things,
oh
probably.
yes, if you think about it, most people have had a level of this. They've just had an extreme level of adverse childhood experience. And so really working with your child and helping them navigate through the education system after they have had such extreme adverse childhood experiences really is something that we can help the parents understand, and it makes them much more productive.
The school system is complicated for anyone.
Oh yes.
And if you didn't grow up in Metro Davidson County, it's even more complicated perhaps to navigate and understand what the system is, so to speak. And certainly if English is not your native language, that adds another level of
Another
complication.
layer.
So you all serve non-native English speakers?
Oh yes, we do. In fact, one of the things that we have in place at our Weaver Center is we have a language line. We do have many bilingual staff, but that's typically bilingual English and Spanish. But we have a multitude of languages of people that come into the Weaver Center needing our support. So we have a language translation line that we subscribe to, we're able to use on the spot for anyone that comes through the door.
Fantastic.
It's wonderful. Now, since we're starting to talk about education, let's go into the school system.
Okay.
We are the Nashville Girls Inc. affiliate. Now, Girls Inc. is a national organization, and Girls Inc. has as its goal to encourage young women to be strong, smart, and bold. That's what we do. We want all our young girls to feel empowered. And we are presently in 20 metro schools.
Wow. What age groups are we talking about?
We're in lower school, middle school, and high school. So we do the whole range of school programs. And it's actually one of the most inspirational programs that you could ever visit and really understand how these young girls are just gravitating toward this really a mission of understanding their own self-worth, understanding their own power, understanding that they too have control over their lives. And it's viewed as a way of, I don't want to in any way diminish the experiences of women who have suffered through domestic violence, but we hope that maybe encouraging more women to see their value and self-worth can somehow help avoid some of the issues that we've found that happen later in life, because we do want to build that level of self-esteem.
I'm Vanessa Johnson. I'm the director of Girls Inc. of YWCA Nashville and Middle Tennessee. So in our programming, we will do activities with our girls to inspire them to be strong, smart, and bold, and that can look very different from day to day. It is always something hands-on, something that the girls are moving and doing something, but it's also meant to inspire them and to help them feel like they can reach their potential and be successful. They might be doing an activity based on self-esteem where they're going to make clothes out of tissue paper and try to be unique in their independent selves, or it could be a STEM experiment where they're learning that technology is exciting and it's something that I could have a career in. One of our favorite activities that we do with our elementary through high school girls, even though it may look a little different, is the idea of setting a budget. And a budget can be a really intimidating thing. For a lot of our girls, it's something new that they haven't done before. And so one of our activities involves a cup of beans. And they take these beans and they try to divide them up to figure out a life budget. And so they have to fill their needs, and so there are things like you have to have a place to live, but what are those options? Well, you could live with a roommate or by yourself, and you kind of figure out which one works best for you. Some of them cost a few more beans than others, and then after you kind of go through your basic needs, you look at some of the things that you might just want, and what do you really want? What's important to you? And then you figure out, do I have any beans left? Am I going to be able to save with this budget, or do I need to rethink what I've done? And it's just a really good process to get our girls using critical thinking skills and life skill planning. And so it's a really fun activity. They get to daydream, but also learn some really good skills. I see a lot of fun, but also a lot of wow moments where they realize I just did something I never thought of before, or I just said something that's really new and I didn't know that before. And so there's a lot of these kind of wide-eyed expressions where they're learning but getting excited and then finding something inside themselves that was already there because they're wonderful, but that they just got ignited or inspired and they realized it's there and it can grow and become something wonderful.
My name is Sierra Walker and I'm 13 years old at Girls Inc. and it's about like helping girls feel better about themselves, and I was like, that's probably like a good program to be in, and I wanted to be in it. The best thing I learned would be that everybody around me, like other girls, we all like equal, we all the same, and we all look good in our own ways.
And then our newest program that's also in the Metro Public School System is Men Together. And this is a program that's designed to really facilitate the development of healthy masculinity. And we're in 21 schools with the Men Together, and that's only in middle and high school. And this program, we want to really change the culture, that the way our culture really views women, to put a value there, to teach young men about this is a healthy way. It really is unbelievable, the conversations that will come out of these, meetings with the children, because we have a developed curriculum that we actually had the people in this field to help us develop. And we go into the school systems and have those kind of conversations that no one else is having with these young boys. That no one else is telling them the things. They'll ask us, you know, young boys will ask us, how do you date? Because so much of society is telling them you skip over dating.
Wow. Wow.
You know, they don't know how to interact. And I think because there's such a society of you're on your phone, you're texting, you're not talking, that people forget how to have these human relationships. And if you're depending on television and movies to teach you how to behave in a relationship, you get a skewed view of the world. We want to bring them back to the basics. And believe it or not, these clubs fill up.
That's great.
Because young boys gravitate. They want to do what I think is the right thing, which is amazing and wonderful.
My name is Lamont Doty, and I am the program manager of Men Together. I enjoy what I'm doing. I love engaging our young men. I want better for them. I want them to have a life filled outside of just financial gain, but I want them to be whole and within themselves. I see a lot of promise in them. I see a lot of these young men having some challenges and some difficult things that are happening at home and in their communities, but they're coming to school. You know, and I think they want what most kids want, is the best out of life. They want to be able to live their dreams, and they want to be safe. They're at a crucial time right now where they're being molded into whatever that looks like. So I think we as parents and teachers and educators, we have to do a better job of instilling that positive something in there where they can take off and, you know, and live their dreams. The landmine exercise, it's an exercise in active listening, where the person who is blindfolded, they have to walk through the landmine, they have to navigate through the landmine, but they have to listen to the voice of their partner. So their partner is basically guiding them through this landmine field to get to the end. So depending on how good your partner is and how good you're able to listen and follow instructions, you will not blow up. These are things that need to be imparted, you know, into these students, instilled into these students, that, you know, you have to be able to sit still sometimes, you have to be able to listen, you have to be able to communicate effectively in order to get to where you need to go. What we try to encourage our young men to do is not to be the bystander, not just to hear the locker room talk or have someone talk about, you know, girls or women in a bad way, because like I said, it could be your sister, you know, so we always try to bring it back home and say, would you like someone talking about a female member of your family like that? Of course not. So we try to be, you know, we try to be proactive in that. You know, we don't want guys to stand around and laugh or think, you know, something disrespectful or derogatory statement against a woman or a young girl is okay. So our training is to let them know that it's not okay. And, you know, it's good to take up for someone. You know, it's good to be that friend, you know, and what that really looks like. So it's a work in progress. You know, there are some that you can see, especially when they're silent, you know, they're getting it. You know, and there are others that are just, you know, they're doing their thing. And, you know, what we have to realize is that everybody in their own time. You know, in our society, we expect everybody to get it when we want them to get it. And this student may get it, he may get it this school year. It may take this student right here, it may take him 2 or 3 years to get to the place where this student is. And we have to, you know, we have to understand that process.
My name is Marcus Brady, and I'm in 7th grade. This is like my first year here. And then the reason I started with men, I'm gonna be real. I didn't want to go to class, and I wanted to start coming here like on Tuesdays, and then it started getting interesting. Shane Foster was talking to us about communication with our friends. We need to communicate with like people to like guide you through your path in life.
Did the YWCA of Nashville create the Amend program?
Yes.
Fantastic.
This is our homegrown, so to
Yes.
speak, program. This is something that we developed and we nurtured and we worked through, and we went through all the processes we had to, all the legal niceties we did. And so we're at this point that we can sort of, I guess for lack of a better way of putting it, franchise it to the country.
Fantastic. I want to go a little deeper into domestic violence,
Sure.
as that is obviously one of the main pillars that you're working against. Is domestic violence necessarily between people who share a house, a home?
It's actually what we call intimate partner violence. That's
Okay.
a better description.
Okay.
So you may not necessarily be in the home with that person, but it's more of the relationship you have with them. And what's important to note, and why we are so adamant about this being something that we need to educate the public about in Tennessee specifically, is first of all, nationally, 1 in 4 women will experience intimate partner violence. And that's a terrible statistic.
Let's say that again.
1 in 4
in Tennessee.
Now bring it home. Here's where it's home. We are 5th in the nation at the rate in which men kill women. The state of Tennessee is 5th in the nation at the rate in which men kill women. Now,
We're not talking stranger on stranger.
No, we're talking about people, I mean, as a whole, and most of it's intimate partner violence. Now, there may be some random, but you are much more likely to be killed by an intimate partner than any other way. And that is something that we need to address, and that's something we need to understand. And frankly, that's something that the state of Tennessee is going to have to own. And so it's very important that not only do we have the safety measures of the Weaver Center that the YW provides, we have to educate the public. We have to explain to women, if they decide to leave a domestic violence situation, what's the safest way.
What do I do if a woman tells me she feels in danger, or if I myself feel in danger?
Be a friend first. And a friend is someone that listens and does not judge, a true friend. But you need to equip yourself with the information, the 800 number that the Weaver Center provides, the crisis line. You need to equip yourself with that. If you feel as though there is a friend that you suspect or think or even have a hint something's not right, then you can take that number and say, you know, I'm just giving this to you. This is just information. You need to make sure they're kept safe, because, you know, if they're going to search on their computer, make sure it's a computer they are safe to search and get the information on that computer, because that could lead to some issues too. But be a friend, get information. You can call and go to one of the educational classes that the YW sponsors. You know, get online and find out as much information as possible so you can be that source for the information that they may not have. We also have people that say that because they're an individual they suspect is a victim, they should be they offer them another computer that's safer for them to use. And you could say, well, you come to my house and do this. Let's look this up and let's work together on this. Because many a friend has actually saved a life by just being that, a friend.
What are some warning signs?
Well, first of all, I think the easiest warning sign that I understand that, you know, many families overlook, like families who've had devastating consequences, is the isolation of the individual. If you've had a family member, and let's say they get into a relationship, everything on the surface seems okay, but you never see them without that person. They're isolated, they seem withdrawn. There are signs that you can see that really would say, that doesn't seem quite right. And if you see something, say something, so to speak. You know, people always say that. But if you see something that's not quite right, just say something. And often, you know, of course, it's denied because it's a very embarrassing thing.
Absolutely.
It's the kind of thing that's secret. And believe it or not, there's a lot of love there. There's a lot of love and affection often for the individual. Even though the individual may be toxic to you and a negative, in your life, you still, that may be the father of your children. There are all sorts of complications that make it very difficult to leave a domestic violence relationship. That's why it's very important to have friends and families that see something and they say something.
Tell me about what might typically happen after a first incidence of domestic violence.
All right. Let me tell you a little bit about a program that we have called the LAP, Lethality Assessment Program.
Okay.
This is a program that's in conjunction with the Family Safety Center as well as the Metro Police Force. And what the program does is it gives the police officers a tool that they can use when they go on a domestic violence disturbance call. The police officer is called as a disturbance. The police officer goes to a site, and based on the circumstances, let's say it seems as though the situation could become lethal, the police officer asks that individual, they separate the two, of course, ask the individual a series of 13 questions. Based on their responses and how that is scored, and the YW has trained all these officers, based on how that is scored, they can determine whether or not, based on the situation you're presently in, whether or not in the future the relationship can become lethal. At that time, they explain this to the woman. They offer her the opportunity to call the crisis line, the YW crisis line. At that point, they can be told how to safety plan. They can be offered a shelter bed if they're available, and they can come in if they choose to. Many do, some do not. And then they can also get information about counseling and other things they can do to really help their situation. But all those things are available, and they also can get an advocate from Gene Crow Center to talk to them about their next steps. So there's a lot of information available. I will say that as far as a collaboration, it has been absolutely wonderful, because police officers tell us that we used to go on these calls, we would arrest somebody, we're doing that prosecution phase, but we felt like we were doing nothing to help the situation. Now they're getting information to that person that's been battered about how they can move forward more positively, and the police officers really, really appreciate it.
Sharon, is there a specific moment where a woman, no question, should leave? This is the sign, this is it. Why am I making excuses? Now I must take action and extract myself.
I actually believe that's an individual decision. Some people I'm tired of him telling me what to do, I need to leave before it gets to that point. I've heard women to say that. They said he never laid a hand on me. I just got tired of being controlled. I felt like my life was going nowhere. I was tired of being demeaned, so it's my time to leave. Typically, we say it takes 7 times of attempting to leave before a woman finally leaves an intimate partner violence situation. I want to change that statistic. I want to change it because I want people to have, or women to have, such a promising future post a domestic violence situation, so that is really not their best option. Sometimes it is, in their minds, their best option. We have a wonderful woman that will be speaking at our next event, which is our Wine, Women, and Shoes events that's dedicated to domestic violence. And Rusty, and she's in our video, and she will tell you she thought that it was easier to stay in a very violent relationship, given the complications of her not having a job and the children needing their father, and every time she tried to leave, he harassed her. So she felt for a long time that it was much easier to stay in the relationship, but it is not. It was not for her. And then once she realized that, she's had an extraordinary life.
Sharon, we have one last portion of the interview together.
Sure.
And I always say it's my favorite segment. Typically, it's a lighthearted segment with you guys in the YW. This will not be a lighthearted segment, but it is still my favorite portion of the interview. It's the speed round.
Sure.
Like the game we would have played when we were little, where I ask you a question, and the first thing that comes to mind, let it fly, and we'll go on to the next one.
Okay.
Fair enough? Here we go. Speed round with Sharon Robertson.
All right.
According to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Crime Statistics Report, was the total number of domestic-related offenses in Tennessee in 2017 700, 7,000, or 77,846?
77,846, unfortunately.
True or false? From the same study, data on spouses and ex-spouses revealed that the most frequently reported victim demographic was white females.
True.
Again from the same study, was the number of domestic violence cases flagged as boyfriend-girlfriend 350, 3,500, or 35,773?
35,773, unfortunately.
Finally, that study says that 59% of domestic violence incidents in Tennessee in 2017 were cleared. Does that mean dismissed?
No, it does not. It means that it's not being pursued anymore. And that's not really dismissed. And I would say it's very complicated. There are many complicating factors.
Can be the choice of the female involved,
Yeah, actually the lack of desire to cooperate and move forward.
Okay. 59%. Okay. True or false? Domestic violence is rare.
False.
True or false? Domestic violence is sometimes not a big deal.
False. Absolutely false.
True or false? A person can successfully get away from domestic violence.
True, if done in the right way.
And what, my friend, is your website?
It is www.ywcanashville.com.
Sharon, thank you
Thank you.
so very much. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you.